The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Welcome to Vicious Whispers with Mark Tullius, your source for horror, sci-fi, suspense, and all things violent.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me today on Vicious Whispers with Mark Tullius. Today we have episode 112. Story at the end of it is 3 Sacred Truths from 25 Perfect Days plus 5 more. But more importantly, I have a very special guest with us today. My buddy from 7th grade, 8th grade?
7th grade, I think it was. 7th, 8th grade, Muscatel.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of high school because you went to Bishop Vermont.
Yep.
And then we had a mutual friend, Rich King.
That's right.
And we did some training together, and I played football with Rich, but then you, like I said, you moved on to, bigger and better things, and then we kind of were separated for a while, but we got reacquainted. Thank God to Facebook and everything, and seeing old friends, we got reacquainted.
Yeah, no, that Facebook is awesome. But Chris Zanderholm didn't
say my name. It's okay. It's okay.
Now, Chris, thanks for coming on. The reason I wanted to have you on is because of stuff that I saw on Facebook. And that's one thing. I always talk shit about Facebook, how much I hate it.
Yeah, I do too, in a way. There's positives and negatives to social media. I think there's more negative things. But if you know how to use the positive things in the right way, I think it's a killer tool for certain things,
Yeah, no, I pretty much put my stuff out there and then I'll browse through maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. But that's when I saw your post. That's when I saw your post before. You had come over. You did yoga with me and Anthony Johnson.
Yes.
Which was cool. But I saw a recent post about a feature that you're trying to be in for Muscle and Fitness
magazine. Yeah.
So I thought that was super cool. So I want to talk about that. But first, I want to talk about just one of the things that super impresses me about you is how much shit you've been through, and that you are not only still getting through your day. Like you are.
And it's a daily struggle. Every day is a new day. Every day is a daily struggle. Every day there's nothing's really consistent. Every day could be different. It depends on my pain level. It depends on how I'm feeling. It's tough.
So even with that in mind, you're still, like you were talking, like the last 4 months or so, you said, are just been awesome. You were hitting all your goals. You're doing stuff that you probably didn't think you would be doing.
Yeah.
So let's go back. When did your health problems first start?
I'll tell you, I moved back from Orange County. I moved back to San Gabriel Valley to take care of my mom, helping her out. Her husband passed away. And so I was living with my mom. And
this is like your 20s?
This is in the 30s. This is like 2005, 2006. Okay. Then I got a job. I was working for the movie studios. I was a Teamster. I loved that job. But at that time, the company, everything was leaving California because of the tax incentives all the other states were giving to film movies there, and Canada and other places. So Hollywood left, and then my seniority was low. So what happened was I wasn't working enough. So I got a job as a bartender at a local restaurant in South Pasadena, and bartending, just doing my thing, but I was, I wasn't happy, man. I was drinking a lot, going out partying, drinking a lot, not healthy, wasn't working out anymore. I used to work out all the time when I was younger. I was really big on fitness, and I played football, and I was into bodybuilding and powerlifting, and I love that. That was my dream, that was my go-to, But I let that go. I went out doing dumb stuff. I was hanging out, drinking and partying, and those things you do all the time you tend to forget all the other stuff, and that's your new life. And that was like that for a long time. And then not being happy, so I was bartending, but I was drinking a lot, and what happened was, all of a sudden, I had a hernia. I don't know if I was picking up a keg in the back room or whatever. Had a hernia, so I had to have that fixed. So I went to have that fixed. After I had that fixed, like a couple days later, I went outside to walk, and I had a little limp. I was like walking funny. I was like, I go, man, my my leg kind of hurts, you know. It's a kind of weird feeling. I never had a feeling like this before. So I let it go. I just, you know how men are.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? It's okay. I'll power through it. I'll work through it. You know, hey, work through it. Yeah, whatever. So a couple of weeks later, I was getting worse and worse. Then the job I was working at, the restaurant, sold.
Okay.
So it was going to be like 3 months before I could even go back, if I would go back, because new owners usually tend to hire new people all the time. So I wasn't working. And then, like I said, with the studios was so slow, I was like, oh, what the hell's going on? But then I was limping, and it was worse and worse. Before you know it, I had to get a cane.
Wow.
I'm like, man, this is weird. You know, I go, it's just maybe just me getting older. I was in my 30s, right? I'm like, I'm not that old, you know? Before you know it, like 3 weeks later, I was on crutches. I had to go buy a pair of crutches. And I'm like, what is going on? And saying the thing I was saying is that my insurance lapsed from the movie studios. Mm-hmm. You have to work a certain amount of hours every 6 months to get like 6 months worth of insurance.
Okay.
So I didn't have insurance. So I was like, I got to go to the doctor. I go, oh, man. So I went to my doctor. They wanted to send me to x-rays, but it was like CT expensive. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I'll pull through. Nah. So it got to the point where I was sitting at home, I couldn't get out of my chair. And the pain was so intense, I was like almost screaming. Wow. So I had to have my mother take me to the emergency room. They took me to the emergency room. They could barely get me in the building. And they got me on the bed, and they moved my leg around. I was screaming. So they did these x-rays. So they sent me to USC. So I was at USC for like 2 weeks. They did a test, and they found an infection. What happened was I caught from the hernia surgery, I caught a bacteria. I caught an infection. Wow. It wasn't MRSA. It wasn't staph. Something else. They said, they explained it's this virus or this bacteria that will travel through your bloodstream, and it'll find a spot in your body, and then it'll manifest. It'll sit there and grow. Wow. So what happened was I found a spot in my pelvis and my hip. So it sat there, and that's what was making me limp. It's because the pain, it was getting worse and worse. So they found the infection. So they said they had to cut me open to drain this infection. So they did. They cut me open, drained the infection. Mind you, I was already in the hospital for almost 3 weeks. Wow. Okay. Then they drained this. They sent me to rehab. So I'm in therapy. I'm walking, but I'm not getting any better. And the pain was getting worse. And then one morning I woke up to go to the bathroom in the hospital. I get up, I have a walker to go to the bathroom. I am just like excruciating. I couldn't figure out what's going on. So I get back to the bed. I get in bed. I look. My leg was 3 inches shorter than my right leg was 3 inches shorter than my left. And I'm like, wow, that's not right. That's not good. So, and the pain was just phenomenal. So they did this, it's called nuclear medicine. They did this test where they put this dye in your bloodstream, and the screen could find it and want to see blood flow. They want to see what's going on, and this fluid will find where the infection is or find where it's going on. So it found where it was at. So they did another x-ray, and my leg literally came through my hip and pelvis and came out here. Wow. So the ball of my femur was sitting out here. So they're like, we have to send you back. We have to send you back right away. So they sent me back to emergency at USC. They're like, we got some bad news for you, man. Your leg the infection is literally ate through my leg and my hip. They said, it looks like you're going to lose your leg. Wow. So just think of that, man. Just getting that news. Yeah. And then you're already sick in the hospital. I was like, now I'm in the hospital like a month and a half now.
And what was going on? You didn't have insurance, so
no.
What was happening? Like, how much was this?
They sent me to county.
Oh, okay. So
I had to go to county. I had to. It was something that I couldn't do. I had no other choice. And I don't mind county, but the thing is, it's a teaching hospital, right. So you're going to get students. But there's always the doctor's always, there's always a person there that's overseeing everything. So I'm not blaming them or anything, but they couldn't catch they should have caught the infection sooner. Yeah. Especially when they already cut me open and drained it. anyways, they cut me. They had to cut me open again before they told me the news about my leg. They cut me open. They said my bone was like mush. It was like you could almost flick it. It was just literally disintegrated. It's destroyed. So they said you're going to lose your leg, or they go. We have three options. We're going to lose your leg if you can't save enough bone. If we save enough bone, maybe we'd be able to fuse your femur to your hip.
Okay.
And that was the other option. I go, well, that means I'm going to have to be straight for the rest of my life. I'm no more bending, no more sitting down in a chair because you're fused. So I was like, that's not an option. I'd rather lose in a way, it sounds morbid, but I'd rather lose my leg. I could be able, at least be able to get around and do things mobile. And the third option, the doctor goes, hey, if we save enough bone in your femur, we could rebuild you. And I just prayed to the doctor. I was like, please, doc, just try to save enough bone. Oh, please. I was like, God, just save me enough bone so this could happen. So went into surgery, 9-hour surgery. They had to remove all the bone. It was diseased from my hip and pelvis and almost my whole femur.
Wow.
So I only got to save about a couple inches of my femur left. But it was enough. So the doctor goes, after I came out of surgery, he goes, you know what? We saved enough bone that we could rebuild you. But they did a procedure called the girdlestone procedure. What it is they put an antibiotic spacer in your leg to keep it separated while you're waiting to get rebuilt. Now, mind you, they told me I had to wait a year to make sure I had no infection. Because you can't do anything to make sure my body's full infection free. Then it took another year to make the titanium part for me because it was built for me. So I was in 2 years. I'll tell you that I was in the hospital for a total of 6 months. Dude. Then I was so sick from the infection and the medications that they had me on. They had to put me in an induced coma. So I was in a coma in the hospital for quite a bit of time. I remember waking up. I had my hair was longer. I had a beard. I was like, what's going on, man? I was in a different part of the hospital. They had these electrodes in my head to measure my brain waves because they said I almost went through, it's called like a psychotic embolism or something like that effect. I was going to lose, my brain was going nuts because of all the medications and stuff. So they had to let my body heal. So they put me in a coma.
Wow. So
total of 6 months, get out of the hospital. I have no bones in my hip, pelvis, and almost my whole femur. And I had to keep it like that for 2 years. So I was in a wheelchair and crutches. So you could actually move my leg like this. It was the weirdest thing, Mark. Talk about depression. Talk about going, where am I going with this? And I'm in my 30s, and I'm like, what is going on? I was just in a bad spot with my life.
Were you suicidal?
You know what? I wasn't suicidal, but I thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody thinks about it one way or another, not necessarily like going, "Oh, I'm going to kill me," but they go, "Man, life would be, what the hell? Life would be,
right.
I don't know if I could live the rest of my life like this because it's not going to get better. It's just going to get worse because I'm not thinking like getting healthy again. I'm not thinking about exercise. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about tomorrow, the next day." And I'm thinking, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I just go and have fun? Or can I go and do things? I wasn't thinking about my health. Mm-hmm. So I was in that mind frame. So that was the worst part about it. I should have been in a different mind frame, but I wasn't. And so 2 years, I had to be in traction at home. They had me on a contraption to keep my legs separated. Since they cut out so much bone and so much nerve that they cut out, they wanted to keep my legs stretched because when they rebuilt me, if it moved it too much, they couldn't be able to pull it back and get the implant in. So they had me on this weighted lever to keep my leg pulled. Talk about excruciating. And I had to be like on that all the time. And I was like, man, anything else? Anything else could give to me? I don't know if it was God saying, I'm testing you, or see what. It was just all these thoughts came into my head. Like, why me? Why did I? Bad luck. Why me? Why me? Why me? Depression. Why me? So, 2 years of that, and then they finally rebuilt me. Best doctor in the world, Dr. Donald Longjohn at USC Keck School of Medicine. Him and Dr. Daniel Oakes, fucking rebuilt me, man. So they got me in. It was a 9-hour surgery. I had to be in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and then it took me about 3 months to learn, like literally, you had to learn how to walk again. It's not like you don't know how to walk anymore, but you have to learn your gait. You have to learn it just because it's a new piece. And then when they rebuilt me, the stretching of it from being back to normal. Oh, the pain, the ligaments being stretched, your plantar fascia, because you haven't walked in 2 years, right? Really? So plantar fasciitis, my feet wouldn't move right. My muscles, my tendons were like rock hard because it was so stretched. It was difficult. That was harder than maybe sometimes the 2 years that I dealt with that, because the therapy and everything was just difficult. So again, 2 years. So it was 2008 when I got sick.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the end of 2007 when I left the bar. It was the February of 2008. So by the time I was done, it was August. I'll tell you the date. August 24th, 2010 is when they rebuilt me. I guess that's my new birth date, I guess you would say. So they rebuilt me, and all that therapy, about a year therapy. And I was back walking, but I was like I said, I was out of shape. I wasn't healthy. I wasn't even thinking about exercise or anything like that. And so it was like 2013, all of a sudden I'm losing all this weight. I'm working, and I was eating like a ton of food, and I couldn't keep weight on. I was losing like 5 to 10 pounds a week.
Wow.
So finally, I was down to like 140. I got down to 100. I was like, but to me, when you see yourself in the mirror every day, you don't really see the changes.
Right.
But everybody else is going, oh, you're on drugs. You must be on speed, or something's wrong. And they were telling me, you took your shirt off, you could see all the bones and everything. I was like almost like anorexic. I didn't see it, and I was so thin. So come to find out that all the medications they had me in the hospital destroyed my pancreas.
Wow. Destroyed
a lot, just that is pretty much what happened. And then just with stomach problems. So they couldn't figure out why I was losing all the weight. So they sent me a specialist, the stomach doctor at Cedars-Sinai, Dr. Simon Lowe, figured it out, saved me. They did it's called an ERCP test, where they put a camera into your mouth, into your stomach, and they have a little clamp, so they could do if they see polyps, they could take polyps off. They could see if anything on your pancreas, they could take it off. So they were looking at my pancreas, and they said your pancreas is destroyed because the medication just destroyed it. So I have a disease called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. It's called EPI for short. And that's the disease. My pancreas doesn't produce the enzymes to take in nutrients from food. I could eat food and digest it, but I don't get anything from it. And my body doesn't process any of the nutrients that I need. So my body was constantly eating itself away. It was using my muscle as energy. Because I was walking, and I remember just being extremely fatigued and tired because my body's using muscle instead of normal food or fat to have energy to do your daily life. So it was the weirdest thing. So they diagnosed it, put me on this medication. I was on a feeding tube for 1.5 years.
Wow.
A feeding tube. So I was at home, I had a feeding tube. I'm sitting at home, and I'm already went through all this stuff with my leg. And I'm like, man, dude, another bad, this is from the medications they had me from the first surgery, or from the first illness when I had. So it was like an ongoing thing, I'm getting the side effects from when I was in the hospital. So now I'm like, dude, what is going on? So this is 2013, so I was on a feeding tube for 1.5 years. Another bad luck. I'm on this feeding tube, my house burns down.
I was going to ask about that when that happened. I kind of remembered that.
Yeah, my house burned down from a portable heater.
Wow.
So house burns down. I'm in the hospital, living in a hotel. Now they finally sent us to a house in Sierra Madre so we could stay, because it took about 3 years to rebuild the house. Wow. Because you have to do all the permits, all that stuff. So I'm there. All this stuff is happening. I'm on this feeding tube, and I'm like, man, I'm sick and tired of this. I got to change my life. I got to go back to what I used to do. I don't know. Do I go back to? And mind you, I was saying before about I was not in that mind frame of exercising. That was out of my head. I wasn't even thinking that. So a good friend of mine Now this is 2015. After I got better, so like I said, I had a feeding tube for a year and a half. So it was 2014. My house burned down. So it was like mid 2014, coming up to 2015, and I made the conscious choice. I go, you know what? I'm going nowhere fast. I'm older. I go, what am I going to do? I can't go back to my old jobs. I was let go as a teamster because of my disability. I can't drive trucks anymore. Mm-hmm. I can't do those heavy lifting anymore. I can't do those things. So I was like, what do I do? I'm like, you know what? I need to take care of me first. I'm just being sick and tired of being sick and tired. I go, I'm going to go back to what I used to do. I need to get back into the gym and get healthy again. Oh boy, what a road that was. My friend got me in. He goes, I'm going to get you in the gym. I got a membership. Let's get you back in the gym. So one day at a time, day one of one, just get the body working out again. Mm-hmm. A couple of weeks later, it just took time. And then walking, because after my surgery too, walking was so difficult. So I remember going to a flea market at the Pasadena City College, and I couldn't get from the parking lot to the middle of the campus where they had the flea market before getting winded and tired and sweating.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, I can't do this. This is ridiculous, And I was like, that's not the way to be, I go, I can't even walk that far. So I started walking again. It went from 10 feet, it went to 20 feet. It went from 20 feet to 40. It went from half a block to a block. Then it went from a block to a half a mile. Then it went half a mile to a mile. So I was building it, and it took time. So 2015, I started working out again. I go, you know what? I want to help people. I go, I've been through a lot. And I go, I think I could really help somebody. So I want to get back into the gym. I want to get back into, you know what? I got to go back to school. I got to do something where I could use my brain and not my brawn or not my body, because I can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. I always depended on my brawn. I always depended on my body to do things. I could always get a job doing something, manual labor, truck driving, all that stuff. I couldn't do those anymore. So I had to take that option and go to school. I go, I'm going to go back to school. And I made the conscious decision. I go, you know what? I'm going to give it all my all. I'm going to go. I'm not going to really date anybody. I'm going to get strict. I'm going to call it a night early, stay home, and study and take care of biz. And that's what I did. PCC is a great school because they had good opportunities for if you're disabled. They have accommodations for people who are disabled. You could get chairs and tables. They pick you up in the car. Now, mind you, when so I lost my insurance, I had to pay this new medication I was taking. It's expensive. So then I had insurance, then my insurance dropped. $1,500 a month just for one medication.
Now you have to pay that?
Yes,
out of
I
pocket?
had to pay that.
Wow.
So 2016, I was having car troubles. You know what? I sold my car. It at least helped me to get through at least a couple months of medications I could buy for myself. Wow. I got to go back to school. I got to take care of business. But all these things were happening while I was going back. I started back at school. So I was like, man, I just can't catch a break. So I took the train to school. And then the good thing about school, they would pick you up in a van from either the bus station or the train station and take you to school and take you back, nice. Which was really nice. That really helped me for the first 2 years of school. That's what I did, and it really made me who I am today in a way. It really taught me, you could, when there's a will, there's a way. Right. I think it was more like I said about, is God testing me? I think it was a big test too, in a way. I was like, can I do this? Can I do this? So slowly but surely, I started doing it, going to school, and then keeping up with my grades. Straight A student. Now I'm winning scholarships. I'm getting grant money, all this stuff. I'm winning all these scholarships. It's paying for my school. I'm actually getting paid. I'm like, this is nice. I go, hard work does pay off, So I just kept it going. I go, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to finish school. That was my goal. I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to finish school. And I go, I want to help people. So I wanted to be either a nutritionist or a dietitian in a hospital, personal trainer, or something in rehabilitation, occupational therapy, physical therapy. I want to help somebody get motivated to do what needs to be done like I did, you know, and no one really helped me to get that motivation to do things. I had to do it myself, as you know, like there's those 5 stages of acceptance, you know, like depression, anger, all the denial, acceptance, you know. I've been through all of it, and I was like, you know what, I got to take care of business. I want to help people, because there's people out there, we talked about suicidal, you know, you asked me that question. There's people out there that actually have done it.
Right.
You know, they get in that position that I was in. You're like, where do I go from here? And a lot of people don't have options, you know. So I learned from trial and error that it can be done. So you know what, I want to help people. So you could say my illness or my disability is what drives me now to do the things that I'm doing. So, like I said, I went back to school. Then I started training again, and then my muscle memory came in, and I started working on everything that I learned in school. I took into and I used it myself, and I used myself as the guinea pig to see if all this stuff, because you could get an article or you could do research on all this other stuff. Someone says this is the right way. No, this is the right way. No, this is the right way. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it myself and see what's the right way and see what's really, you know, if it's true or not. So I just put everything that I learned into myself. And that's what I did. So I started just eating really healthy, really clean. And the best thing about it was going to school. Education, I'm telling you, education is the best thing in the world. It really broadened my horizons like you wouldn't believe. So I guess, but I said I had to go to junior college because I had to start from over again, you know? So that's what I did. And started training again. And then I started getting good at it. You know, I was doing the things that I was doing. And then people were asking me, hey, can you help me? Can you help me train? And I go, man, this is something I could do. You know, this is something that I love to do. If this is something I could do and make some sort of, I wasn't really worried about making a living. I didn't think about the money. What people do wrong is they always go, what's the job that I could make money in? Yeah. And they're not happy. You know, oh, I could do this. I don't really like it, but if it's making me money, I'm good. But yeah, they'll make the money at first, but they hate themselves going to work every day. Yep. So and it's the truth. It might sound cliche, but you got to do what you love. If you do what you love, the money will come. I think so. You know? So, and I love exercise. I love, like, helping people, like being a doctor. So I always wanted to, either being a physical therapist or like a chiropractor or just something like an occupational therapy. I wanted to work with disabled people, you know, because I'm disabled, but there's people who are a lot worse off than I am, right? You know, and there's a lot of people that, like I said, don't have the option to talking to someone or doing the things that I did. I don't have the motivation, the self-motivation to do those things. So I want to be there to help somebody if I can. I give them just a pointer, give them a little advice of what to do, what not to do, and get them back. And what really sold it to me, because now I have to go in and have surgeries all the time. I have injections in my back. I had a spinal cord implant put in. That helped with pain, but I had to have it removed because it got infected. So I had that surgery, and they had a hard time waking me up. And I was like, man, I'm always like that, you know, like those 9 lives, I already used up 8. Yeah. You know? I was like, man, what's going on? And this guy we were in the same room. The guy was diagnosed, he had a colon cancer. So they removed part of his intestine, so he was on a colostomy bag. And he was next to me, and his wife is in there. And a friend of mine came to visit me, and we were talking, and I was giving him, I'm in the hospital bed, and he's asking me advice on how to get back into the gym and working out. So I'm telling my friend, you need to do this, and do motivation. I was giving him my story, what you need to do, and all this stuff. So after he leaves, the guy next to me goes, hey, man, I'm in a bad spot, man. I just heard you talk. And he goes, can you help me? Can you talk to me? So he asked me, you know, he was depressed because now he's got a bag, you know. And I go, man, you know what? Listen, I told him the story, you know, listen, you've been dealt the hand that now you got to play that hand, do the best you can. So don't look at it. You have the disease now. You already have it. It's done. So you can't go back. So what are you going to do? You have to move forward. You trust me, if you don't, it's going to eat at you, and it's going to eat you away, and you're not going to be in a good spot. So after I was done talking to this gentleman for about 15, 20 minutes, they sent me into physical therapy or whatever. Later on that day, his wife was there. I wasn't in the room. And then I came back in the room, and the wife goes, she almost had tears in her eyes. She goes, "What you did for my husband was amazing. You made him feel awesome. Like $1 million. You changed his attitude from 180 turn just because you talked to him." And that right there made me feel like $1 million. It made me like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to help people. If I could do that, that made me feel so good that I could help somebody just a little bit. I didn't help him go train or work out. It was just a guy next to me in the hospital bed, and he was just depressed. And that sold me, you know? So I'm like, cool. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. So that's what made me go finish school. I was doing nutrition, but I used that as my minor. But then I got into the athletic training program at PCC, working with student athletes, injuries. So that's what I wanted to do. I started getting into that. So that I was sold on that. So that's fast forward to 2020. I graduated, but the pandemic kind of screwed everything up. So I had to wait till this year. I had to take extra classes. So what I did is I took extra classes so now I got 3 degrees. You know, I was happy. I go, I can't believe I did it. I pulled it off. And then I made honors. So I just got accepted to Cal Poly Pomona for sports medicine, pre-allied health. So I'm in that field where I could choose either physical therapy, chiropractic, occupational therapy, athletic training, working with athletes. I like to do that too. I like to work with athletes in strength and training, strength and conditioning. So I'm doing all these little things. I'm getting all these little certificates while I'm going to school, and I'm taking advantage of going to school and taking these certain classes to get these certifications. And that's where I'm at now. So now now the pandemic's almost over. I went from 0 doing nothing to 60. I got a job working for one of the biggest sports medicine facilities in San Gabriel Valley.
That's awesome.
I do that, and I've been personal training. I got a great clientele base right now, and I love it. I love every minute of it. Yes, you know what? I'm tired. Days I work, I'm on my feet all day doing therapy. But at the end of the day, I'm happy, man, because I'm helping people, and I really enjoy it. I really do. It might sound like it's a cliche.
Dude, no, that's awesome.
I love it, even though if it beats me up. And like I said before, you know, my illness or my disability is what drives me. And in a way, if I wasn't sick, maybe I wouldn't be in the same mindset that I am now. I think being sick or getting sick, going through all that is what made me a better person, is what made me a better man. And that's what I want to do now. I want to help people. I want to get people better, whatever it takes. If it's just motivational speaking, just talking to somebody. Sometimes just talking to somebody could make a world of difference. So coaching, health coaching, anything of that sort, that's what I'm into. So that's where I'm at now. So that's my story. It's been tough. It's been a long road, but the depression and all that stuff, it comes and goes, but now it's just all that's really gone. Everyone still gets, I get it. You get down.
Right.
You know, especially I have pain issues all the time, you know, and I have things I have to deal with. I have medications I still have to take all the time. That gets old, you know, but like I said, you got to play the hand that you're dealt and play it the best you can. If you got a 2, 4, a 7, and a 9, play that hand and do your best you can. Yeah. That's all you could do. So that's what I'm doing now.
No, dude, I think that's amazing with wanting to help other people. Dude, that was the reason why I started doing my traumatic brain injury book. Yeah. I didn't think I had traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah.
I thought I was like, I dodged a bullet, my brain's fine, 100%. Yeah. But I'm going to write this book because I have other friends that are having brain problems and maybe I could help them. Yeah. And then I realized like, oh shit, it's like my brain is all fucked. And so I need to fix it. But my motivation has been like, okay, I can give other people hope. I can help them heal themselves. Yes. Or I could just help them deal with, you know, some of these emotions and bring awareness to it. It's like, and that for me, like that's huge, you know. So I completely get it. I think it's awesome.
Exactly that point you just said about just because you wrote that book, those things, someone out there somewhere is in a bad spot, right? Mm-hmm. Don't know what to do, or don't have the right research, or hasn't done the right research, or hasn't been told a certain thing, or they're in a closet where they're not looking at books, or they might pick up your book.
Right.
You know, or they know somebody who read your book about traumatic brain injuries, and they get that advice. Just that little advice could change them like that. You know, and you don't. Just a lot of times you won't get the kudos for it, or you won't get it. But guarantee you, somebody read it and it's helped somebody. I know it for a fact.
Yeah, you know? No, that's what I'm hoping, man. And the thing is, like, even if you only help that one guy, let's say you only help that one guy in the hospital, that's still fucking huge to have an impact on someone else's life.
Yes.
I think a lot of people take that shit for granted, or they don't appreciate it, or they don't really think about it.
Yeah.
But no, man, I think that's, you know, if we could, that's probably our goal on life. Like, if you can make other people's lives better, usually I focus on my family. Yes. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going to make my kids and my wife, I'm going to make their days a little bit better. Because, dude, when it comes to it, like, I think about it every day, like, we're going to die. Yeah. Like, we could die today. Fucking, they could die tomorrow, whatever. So, like, let's make this shit the best as possible. Let's try to make it a better place. I used to be so destructive and angry, and I was like, I don't got time for that shit anymore. Yeah. So.
No, yeah, you've been through a lot of stuff. I know you went. I remember you were doing stunt work, and you're doing the ultimate fight. You were doing the.
Yeah, I was very reckless and destructive, and yeah.
But see, then you learn, you change. You know, as we go older too, especially when you get older, especially like you're at a certain age, and all of a sudden all these bad things are happening to you, or all these things in your life. Not necessarily they're bad, but a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. Work, family, you're trying to take care of business, you got bills to pay, all this stuff, and then just say you lose your job, and then think on top of that, just say you get sick. I'm telling you, health is, we all take advantage of it. We all think we're invincible until that day happens. Yeah. And as we get older, something will happen. So, you know, it might be minute, it might be something little, but something will happen, and it depends on how you react to that situation or that injury, and how you move forward from that. Some people don't move forward from it. You know, it could be a little one. Some people's little, to me, might be a little bit of an injury, or a little thing to them might be catastrophic. Right. You know.
No, and that's one reason when you came over. Well, when I knew you were coming over, I was thinking about my neck, my back. My wife and I have been going back and forth on trying to do jiu-jitsu and whether or not we should, and this and that, and, you know, bitching about it. And I was like, it's such a fucking little thing, you know. And I was like, I'm happy that I can walk. I'm happy I could do all these other things. Like, I got to think about all the shit that I can do and not get upset because, you know, maybe I can't do high level fucking hard training in that sport. Yes. So this is helpful for me to kind of reframe my mind and be like, okay, yeah, no, let's think about it like this. I want to go into the muscle and fitness deal. Yes. So tell me a little bit about that. What is it? And also, where can people go to vote on it? And when does the voting start?
The voting starts on the 14th of June. I think the voting is on either Facebook and Instagram. Okay. But I think I could send out an email. I'm still doing the research on that, how I could send that out, because you need votes. So I got this email stating, because, you know, I'm also a sponsored athlete. Okay. A company called Phoenix Fit. They're a supplement company, vitamins, protein powders, stuff like that. So they had me endorse me, so I get, you know, I promote them on my Instagram page, and I get, you know, I get a commission off of stuff like that. And that's my endorsement. And then I got some other things. So all these little endorsements that I have, word gets around, or people talk, people send other people, you know, information. So someone sends something. So I got an email from Muscle and Fitness saying there's a competition. They do it every year. It's called Mr. Health and Fitness. It's not a professional bodybuilder or a professional athlete, you know, common everyday folk who work out, who exercise, and are committed to it. So I think they heard my story. Actually, I don't think they heard my story, but someone sent them something pertaining to this guy might be the way to go. So they sent me this email, do this, do that. So they wanted me to send some photos, and they wanted me to send in a little summary of me and why I'm into health and fitness, like kind of what I just told you right now, everything that I've been through. But I didn't get into that detail, just very minute. So they said, it says you're in the, and then they said I'm in the finalists for this group to be Mr. Health and Fitness. So I could win a 3-page editorial in the magazine.
That'd be awesome.
And and then $20,000 to, so they ask you, what would you do with they send you a series of questions. What would you do with the money? What would you do? You said, I'll pay for my school. I would try to help as many people as I can.
12 months of your pills.
12 months of my pills. Medications, that's another thing, man. That's with the system, with the healthcare system, man, the medication. If I didn't have insurance, dude, life would be tough, man. Think about that. If one medication is $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's off the top. That's just so you live. That's not even including your bills. That's not even including gas. That's not including your eating. So I'm like, wow, it's a tough one. Thank God I have my insurance now and I have all that stuff. I wouldn't. To tell you the truth, dude, I would be in a difficult spot if I didn't have it. So. I got this offer, and now they said I'm with the finalists. So, June 14th, I'm going to send out an email. It's going to be on, I believe, what they want is on Facebook, Instagram. But I'm going to do more detailed work because I haven't really looked into it because I just really found out, and I kind of put it to the wayside because I was like, oh, it's just another email. Trying to sell something or trying to, I get those 1,000 of those a day. Oh yeah, we got whatever. So I've been so busy with work, and then I'm getting ready for school in August. So I'm just being prepared and trying to get everything done. So then they sent me another one. They said, you're in this thing, and then I had to do my research. I go, is this real? Oh, it's real.
Yeah.
So then they sent me videos to watch. I have a coach that's in there that part of the magazine that is telling me what I need to do and how to do this. So I'm still in that process, but I sent in a more detailed summary of what I've been through and my photos, and they're happy with it. So what? Awesome. You never know. If I don't get it, it is what it is. It's a shot in the dark. Hey, it is what it is. But you never know. And the way I've been going, just working hard, and I truly believe that you put the work in, you get out what you put in. And it goes with everything. If you half-ass it, you're going to get a half-assed response. If you got to do it the right way, and then don't spread yourself too thin. You don't do 20 things at once. I got in that habit too of trying to do. I got school. I was trying to do a fitness blog, all these things. But if you have all these things that you're doing, you can only give. People, we're not meant for multitasking. So doing too many things, you're giving 20%. Do a couple things or do one thing, give it 100%. Finish that first and then move on. So take care of that one thing first, then move on. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. And I have a bad habit of doing too many things at once sometimes. I get overwhelmed. Like I get all these emails. I'm going to have a new fitness app built for me. So I could use it for my clients.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, it's really awesome. But I had to put the work in. I was starting my sports medicine business because I do therapy and stuff like that. I'm a rehabilitation therapist for, like I said, one of the biggest sports medicine facilities in San Gabriel Valley. And I love it. So I wanted to incorporate all that stuff. So I'm trying to do all this stuff. But like I said, you can't do it all. I have to slow down, stop, do this one thing, do this one thing, do this one thing, and that's what that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
Dude, and that's great advice. That's one of my biggest problems. I jump around, but I also think because like with Derek the Demon, my puppet, I've been spending time on him. Last week I was like, no, what, I'm not gonna mess with him. I need to focus on writing. But yesterday I spent most of the day like fucking around with him. I was like, it's hard because I enjoy it. I was like, you know what? So I realized I'm hurting my writing a little bit, but I'm also fulfilling something here. So it is hard because, dude, I spread myself thin too much, and it's not getting overwhelmed with it.
Yourself thin is a lot different from other people because you're actually an accomplished writer. You have many books that you've published, which is an amazing fact in itself. There's only a group of people that could say that, and that's that's what's really impressive about you, Mark, that you've done this, you've gone to school, you took care of business, and you're doing the things that you love. You love writing. I think it's bitching. I've read your books. I love them.
Thanks, man.
You know, so that right there is, come on, man. I can't even come close to that. You know?
No, shit, no, dude, and that's what's cool. I think we always admire others, but yeah, because honestly, if I had been in your situation, knowing my mindset, I wouldn't have made it through. No way.
Yeah.
No.
Some people, yeah, it was tough, you know, and yeah, it's a tough thing. I think you would. I know, because knowing you, you would have pulled it. But I understand what you're saying. Like, you don't know. You're like, that's a lot of stuff, man. I don't know if I would make it. When you're put in that situation, you never know until you're in that situation. To tell you the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody's different. You know, but that's why I said I want to help people, because some people are in that position and can't get out.
So to wrap this up, all right, let's say. So what advice do you have for someone that is dealing with something fucking that kind of sucks? So what would you tell them if they got just some bad news and they know that they're in for a fucking little bit of a painful journey ahead of them, difficult times?
Attack it straight up. Attack it. If you get this bad news, if you gotta just say they give you a diagnosis, doesn't just a health issue. Don't think about what you can't do anymore. Don't think about, oh man, I can't, what am I? No. Assess the situation and attack it. Go, okay, I got this. How do I get better from this? What do I need to do? Do your research. Do your research. Do your research. Look it up. Ask people. You got to ask questions. Ask around. Do your research. And then fix that problem first. Fix that problem first, especially if it's health. Because if you're not healthy, nothing else is going to really matter, because if you're not healthy enough, you can't do anything else anyways. So you might as well knock that out and take care of that first. And if you have to recess and you have to go back, just say you have to move back home, you got to live with your mom or you live with your parents. And that's another thing. What's wrong with that? You know what? Especially nowadays, especially if your parents are a little bit older. You know what? You're taking care of your parents. I know so many people who are doing that. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's just one of those things. You gotta step back, take care of biz. If you have to do that, move back home. If you have to do what you gotta do. Get your things in order first. Take care of business first, and then move on to the next thing. And then get back to where you were before. But you gotta start first with your health, take care of that, and then your priorities change. Then you get to go, okay, now my work. Okay, what do I gotta do with my work? So with my work, or whatever it is, if it's exercise, whatever it is, then focus on that. And then you could learn to incorporate what you did here with your health, and then your exercise, or whatever it is. It could be reading, you could write, whatever it is. Then you fix that, and then you move on to the other thing. Don't run away from it, because it's never going to go away. It's never going to go away. It's always going to be there. I'm not just saying it's just health. It could be anything. If you got a problem, you got to face it head on. And if you need to go see help, if you need to go see a doctor, if you need mental health is a big thing. People always shy away from mental illness. Everybody has some form of mental illness. Everybody. PTSD. I had PTSD when all this happened, because it was so traumatic for me. When it happened, and it happened so fast. Boy, man, that was a nightmare. You know, just the cold sweats and the night, and the night terror sometimes. Whew, man. But when those happen, you got to fix those problems first, and not shy away from it. And I think men especially have that problem of shying away, thinking, oh, I'll get better, or I'll be all right. I'll be okay.
I'll tough it out.
I'll tough it out. I won't die. I'll be okay. I'll be fine. Nothing's wrong. I'll be fine. I'll worry about it tomorrow. Yeah, you keep worrying about it tomorrow, and tomorrow is going to stop, and there's not going to be another tomorrow. Yeah. So you got to take care of that first thing.
Now, when on the 14th, I'll share your the link and everything. But where can people follow you? That way they can see it themselves.
You can follow me on Instagram, Swede from the Mead 75. That's my hashtag. Or you go to Facebook at Christopher Zanderholm. I'm posted there. It's under UTHARTA, Sports Medicine and Dietetics. So Facebook, Christopher Zanderholm, or Instagram, Swede from the Mead 75 is my hashtag. or you just look up Christopher Zanderholm. And then if you do that, I'll follow you back, or you follow me, and then I'll connect. And that's how the voting is now. But I will let you know exactly how the voting process is. If you go to muscleandfitness.com, and it would pop up type in Mr. Health and Fitness. My profile will come up, and then you could vote for me there.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again, dude. I wish you the best with everything with this competition. I appreciate you coming on and sharing the story.
I appreciate you having me come out. I really appreciate it, and I hope this helps somebody. I hope somebody out there, if you need help, you can always reach me, man. I'll always talk to you. If you need advice with anything, I am more than happy to help.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. I'm not, so contact him.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy to talk to people too.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to end this. We'll wrap it up with a short story. This one is from 25 Perfect Days. This short story is narrated by my buddy David Thompson. It is 3 Sacred Truths. Chris, thanks so much again for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Awesome. I appreciate it. Later.
Three Sacred Truths, August 12th, 2053. The sun beat down on Caden Hollister's back, the 100-plus heat absorbed by the black. Pants, shoes, shirt. That's what all the initiates wore. No hats. It was all boys on the sorting line. 4 staggered on each side, Caden at the end. They'd been up there since 7. Had only come down for a 5-minute lunch. Caden didn't know how much more he could take. The smell of curdled milk and runny shit seeped through the toilet paper stuffed in his nose. His mouth was a parched hole sucking in air, trying not to taste it. The trash was bunched up at the start of the conveyor. Caden glanced over the edge into the mouth of the compactor below. He wondered what Fielding felt those last few seconds. The sun bounced off a piece of glass, and Caden went back to his game. His right hand a black hawk swooping in and grabbing the shard, dropping it down the green hole. Caden shook the double vision. The top of a tin can burnt the left hawk's beak. The right hawk scooped it up and saved the day, circled back to snatch the scrap of aluminum before it disappeared over the edge. Time went by dreadfully slow. Caden never had any idea when it was. He didn't know the temperature, the pollutant count. He didn't know anything. It didn't matter that he was connected. The source had been turned off inside the fenced-in main portion of the camp. It had only been a month since the controller's late-night visit. It seemed like a year. The first week at the camp had been recovery, simply surviving the vaccines. The last 3 weeks, Caden worked his way up the sorting line, waiting for the day they were going to tell him they knew he was just as guilty as his parents. The pieces of trash were slowing down, further apart. His hawks perched on the ledge, the layer of filth allowing them to withstand the sizzling metal. The last bit of garbage dropped into the compactor. Caden raised his right hand and spoke as loud as he could, his lips cracking. "Elder Mason, all finished." A whistle blew and the conveyor stopped. Caden turned around and sat on the walkway, his back to the line. Like all elders, Mason wore red, boots to cap. The 17-year-old got up from the folding chair and left the shade, headed over with the tray of tin cups. Like most elders, Mason was predictable, starting where he always did, down with the little ones. Caden bunched the top of his drenched shirt into his mouth and sucked out the sweat while he reached into his pocket and pulled out 3 peanuts, a bruised grape, and a bit of burnt meatloaf. He stuffed it into his mouth, 2 chews, 1 swallow. Not enough to survive on, but less of the camp food he'd have to eat. He'd already lost 14 pounds and couldn't afford too much more before they started asking questions. There wasn't much to be seen inside the electrified fences. Mountains of trash to the left, concrete-encased trash bales piled on the right. On the other side of the fences were 3 towers, elders in red with plasma rifles, so there was nothing to fear. The preacher watching over his flock, ready to eradicate. Caden went back to the concrete blocks and wondered which one Fielding was in, if maybe he'd already been picked up and dumped to the bottom of the sea as foundation for another island. Mason slapped Caden's leg with the back of his hand and told him to grab the tin. The others were sipping their water. Nelson, the bony 16-year-old beside him, could barely hold the cup to his lips. When Mason walked around the line, Caden filled his mouth and swished it around. The water was one of the sweetest things Caden had ever tasted, but he didn't swallow a drop. He put his shirt to his lips and let the water run down his front, blend with the sweat. Even if Bradford hadn't warned him about the dangers, Caden knew better. He saw the blank look on the long-timers, how they moved so slowly. Most of the initiates came from the masses, the rest with health index scores too low to be wanted. They'd been in the camp their whole lives. It was all they knew, nothing of the outside. But that wasn't the only thing that made Caden smarter. His parents had thought it'd be a good thing to do, and allowed the surgery that unlocked a portion of his brain, made his memory a trap. He knew too much, but had to pretend like he didn't, too goddamn smart for his own good. And now he was sitting in filth, with no idea how many more days he could make it. All because of a girl. If she hadn't joined his quest and rescued him from the orc ambush, Caden wouldn't have paid her any attention. But she did save him, looking hot as hell in her dragon-skin bikini, her dripping short sword. She whispered she liked to get close, and told Caden how to follow her. It'd be fun. Caden was connected at a coffee shop with no restrictions. He said why not and locked on to her, went along for the ride. Her face stayed in front of his as she took him through a dozen doors, sight after sight after sight. The scenes became more peaceful, then slowly went dark. The light crept back. Layers of orc slayer melted away, and the girl's true face appeared. Nothing special. Her eyes a dead glaze. The camera panned out, her face slack while some guy pumped in and out between her legs. "Can you hear me?" she asked without moving her mouth. "You like this?" Caden couldn't look away from her eyes. He didn't know the words for what he felt. "Come on and stay," she said. $20 a minute. There were two other teenage couples on the couch, one on the floor, pushing and pulling, oil rigs up and down. Something hit Caden's leg, knocked him out of the memory. It was Nelson struggling to his feet. He said, "It's time." Mason pressed a button and dumped the trash bin. Unit 7 painted across the side, a reminder they better be thorough. Most of the trash was picked off before it got to Caden. Little scraps here and there flicked into the holes. Caden's mind drifted off, back to the girl who didn't want to be there. He'd asked her why she did it, where she was at. His family had money. Maybe he could help her. The girl gave in and took Caden's hands, her face back to the slayers. The first scene was a giant lodge, people picnicking on the lawn. The second was a glimpse of a chapel, the ways cross-cutting through the clouds. The last was an unmarked building, white walls, no windows. She took Caden inside, showed him things no one should see. Her sister was in there, with an abomination growing in her womb. Like she'd been on a string, the girl went flying back to the couch, her eyes still glazed but popping out, her face purple with the guy's forearm crushing her throat. The guy was well above the weight limit, muscles too big for his body, short, spiky hair visible when he spun to the camera and told Caden, "I know you're there." The conveyor kept rolling, and there it was, a fleck of yellow amidst the grime. Caden's hand shot down and broke off the pencil's tip, buried the lead behind his dirt-filled fingernail. He held up his hand and called for Mason. The whistle blew, and everything stopped. The metal walkway dug into Caden's knees when he got down and placed the pencil inside Mason's glass container. Mason told Caden good job and returned to his shade, sipped the water from his pack. "The rest of you give me 20. The The walkway shook as everyone but Caden fell to their chests and got back up, counted each time. When they got back to their spots, Nelson started wheezing, his sunburnt skin the whitest it been. Caden concentrated on the trash, his hawks moving faster, because Nelson was just standing there, hands by his sides. Nelson's eyes rolled back and he fell face first onto the conveyor. Both boys were going into the compactor, unless Caden did something. With one foot braced against the railing and the other on the machine, Caden lifted Nelson off the conveyor and stood him back in his spot. Mason yelled for everyone to get back to work, but Nelson was back to being a zombie, shit dripping off his face. "Come on, man," Caden said. "You okay?" Nelson glared at Caden and nodded. Then he took 2 steps back and flipped over the rail, landed with a loud crunch. He was looking up, but not at Caden, the angle of his neck all wrong. Mason didn't move from his chair. "Hollister, check him." Caden lowered himself over the edge and dropped to the concrete, picked up Nelson's wrist. "His pulse is weak, maybe a broken neck." Mason nodded and radioed the infirmary. "One headed your way from RC." He pointed at Ingle, a 17-year-old slob with clumpy brown hair. "Help carry him. Head back to your units when you're done." Caden got his arm under Nelson's neck, saw right away it wouldn't stay straight. Ingle used the ladder at the front of the line, took his time walking over. Caden lifted his end, couldn't believe Nelson was so heavy. "Let's go, he's all jacked up." Ingle brought up the legs, held them so Caden carried most of the weight. "He shouldn't have fell." Caden figured he'd walked faster backward than Ingle would forward. He led them out of the recycling yard and into the hallway, toward the rest of the main campus. Even though Caden's grip was slipping, it was Ingle who stopped, dropped Nelson's legs the second they were out of Mason's sight. "Go ahead, superhero," Ingle said. "Fly him to the rescue." Caden kept his voice down, afraid the hallway would echo. "Pick him up, he's dying." Ingle shook out his arms and black flakes floated to the floor. "You seen his eyes, it's what he wanted." "His heart's beating. Don't do this." Caden didn't think before he said, "I'll yell." Ingle stood there, crossed his arms. "You would, wouldn't you?" Caden said to hell with it and hauled Nelson higher on his chest, secured his grip, and dragged him backward. What if it was you? The infirmary wasn't that far. Caden hoped he could do it on his own, or at least get to where the towers could see him if he fell out. Not that they'd do much besides radio Mason so he could order someone to help Ingle. Ingle stood still, his eyes darting around nervously, as Caden came close to stepping from the shadows. "Hold on," Ingle said. He caught up with Caden and scooped up Nelson's legs, held them so no one could move. "You gotta slow down." Caden nodded and headed out of the shadows, the sun shining bright. The elder in the east tower was turned their way. The concrete campus looked deserted. Everyone was still at work. They turned at the back of Housing Unit 5 and took the path between it and 6. The units were long, 60 rooms per wing. 3 and 4 were next, 1 and 2 right past them. They began the last stretch, passing the building where sterilized girls made uniforms, helmets, ammo belts, and armor. At the end of the path was a wall of green, the open gate just big enough for a golf cart. An elder in red stood on the other side. Caden's arms were on fire, both boys in danger of toppling over. Nelson's heart thudded. "We're almost there," Caden said. An initiate Caden had never seen headed to the units. The grease on his arms and face appeared as black as his shirt. The boy barely moved out of the way. When they were close enough to the gate, Caden shouted, "One from RC to infirmary." The brown-skinned elder said to hold on. He finished patting down another initiate and pushed him through the gate. One look at Nelson and the elder pointed up the road. "Better hurry." They walked past the initiates lined against the ivy fence, not one of them offering to help. The road continued another 100 yards, the canines housed way down at the end. All along the left ran the 2-story windowless building, its slick white wall impossible to climb. That was the building no one talked about. Caden knew what was in there. After the girl had given him the glimpse, he went digging, found files he never should have seen. It was where all the unsterilized girls were assigned. The building Caden told his dad about. The real start of this nightmare. They passed the last initiate and came to the tunnel between the lab and the infirmary. Caden slowed to fix his grip, felt the soft pull of his connection come to life. On the other side of the tunnel was a street like he had back home. Green grass around the picnic tables. To the right was the gym Caden had only heard about, the male elders complex, the pool beside it. The female complex set across the street, the Orc Slayer's lodge a short path away. Straight ahead lay the chapel and a glorious mansion, only the best for the anointed. There was a door halfway down the tunnel. Caden jerked his head at it and said, "It's closer." Engel asked if he was stupid, nodded at the faint blue light buzzing across the top of the tunnel. The infirmary's front door opened and a voice called the boys over. The young man's red uniform had 7 silver stripes on his shoulder, 1 for each year as an elder. The cold air gave Caden the last burst of energy, got him past the row of monitors, the empty sick bays. A one-way mirror ran along the other wall, a glimpse into the fish tank. Puny kids huddled up in blankets, fighting the vaccines. Most wouldn't make it. 4 young men in white coats waited around the steel table. They looked too young to be doctors, but Caden knew if they were connected, had the will, determination, and extra brain capacity, they could learn anything. Caden hoped it would be enough as they heaved Nelson onto the table. The doctor in charge put 2 fingers to Nelson's throat and flopped his head to the other side. "Good job, boys," he told the elder to start up the birds. The elder put one hand on Caden's back, the other on Engel's, and guided them to the water cooler. "Grab a drink and close the gate on your way out." Caden followed Engel, waited patiently for his turn, jumped at the whopping thump, thump, thump coming from the other side of the wall. The elder sat in front of a large screen which showed a row of miniature black helicopters. He opened up a black journal and said, "Ready." The doctors had slipped on plastic covers, strapped down each of Nelson's limbs. One scanned the right wrist and said, "Peter Nelson, number 470302. The elder said copy and wrote in the journal. Something clicked to Caden's right. Engel stood on the other side of the closed gate, middle fingers raised. The buzz of the saw drowned out the choppers. The wine was wet as the blade tore through the skin, ate at bone. One doctor held open a bucket, wisps of dry ice floating over the sides. The other removed the heart and set it inside. He checked the clock and called time of death. Another box, another organ. 6 altogether before the doctors ran them outside, loaded them in the helicopters. Caden shook the gate and tried to keep his voice calm. "I got locked in." The elder called him an idiot and pressed a button, clicked open the gate. When he got outside, Engel was gone with the rest of the initiates. It was just the elder sitting on the folding chair, enjoying the shade of his umbrella. Caden stopped for his pat-down. 1 infirmary to Unit 6. He didn't bother getting up, just nodded at Caden. "I've heard good things. Keep it up." Caden trudged down the path, thought about the water he'd forgotten, the ragged buzz he never would. He checked in at Unit 6's front desk. He waited for Elder Dawkins to unlock the wing and slide open the door to his room. The room was a quarter the size of the room Caden had back home. Just enough space for the steel bunk bed, toilet sink, and the 2-drawer dresser. Bradford was in black shorts and a t-shirt, down on the bottom bunk. The 14-year-old worked the culinary, knew what was safe and what was not. He asked if Caden was okay. Caden said he was, and nodded at the toilet. Bradford went to the door and got on his tiptoes to block the window. Caden took a sock from his drawer and sat on the toilet, bent over in case the overhead camera was on. He dangled the sock into the half-inch of water over the trap and put the sock to his lips, then sucked down the water. When he had had enough, Caden sat on the bunk and Bradford took a piss, the only way to make the toilet flush and refill. He sat down next to Caden and slid him a rolled-up slice of meat. It was gone in 2 gulps. Caden remembered the lead and dug it out of his fingernail, handed it over. Bradford didn't smile much. 12 years with away, his billionaire mother dead, the inheritance gone, just like that. But he smiled at the lead. Caden felt a little better with the water and got up to block the window. Bradford ducked beneath the bunk, started sketching on the metal. Caden couldn't see, but knew it was Bradford's mother, the gentle strokes, the slow blink, the softness of his cheek. The wing door opened and heels clicked. Caden threw Bradford the damp sock, and their door opened. Caden peeked out and saw a spiky-haired disciple in a silver suit, an anointed in white behind him. The muscle-bound disciple hurried down the hall and got in Caden's face. No question he was a killer. Hollister, Caden, step back to the wall. Caden considered going for the disciple's plasma pistol. He backed up until his hands touched the warm cement. The disciple ordered Bradford to wait outside. He followed him out of the room. The anointed came in with his white cloak, a black scarf striped silver and red draped over his shoulders. He saw his name was Portalson and told Caden to have a seat. Caden did what he said, but he was thinking of Lafferty, the anointed that awakened Caden with a tap on the shoulder. Told him everything was going to be okay a split second before the gunfire. He said Caden didn't have to worry. His parents would never hurt him again. Portalson moved in front of Caden, his sparkling white hands clasped in front of his cloak, the faintest hint of flowers. You've been brought to our attention. Caden waited for the verdict. Truth is, they think you're a little old to be sorting through rubbish. You're smarter than that. It sounded like a trap, so Caden just nodded. Would you agree? I believe I can do whatever's asked of me. Portalson laid his hand on Caden's shoulder. You can walk the path of the way, answer the questions truthfully. If Caden turned them down, they wouldn't come back. His voice cracked when he said, I can. Portalson brought forth a white ribbon, laid it on the dresser. Get cleaned up. On his way out the door, he said, report to the tunnel in 15 minutes. Bradford returned, and the door slid shut behind him. He pointed at the ribbon, sat down next to Caden, and whispered, You think you're ready? The preacher is ruler above all else. I believe that with all my heart. Bradford looked like he might cry. What he does for us, for all the unwanted. Just think about it. Caden took off his clothes and threw them down the chute. He said the words so he could believe them. The preacher is willing to sacrifice all to make this world a better place. Bradford wished him good luck, and Caden said the same. Elder Dawkins buzzed Caden through for the minute-long sand blast of a shower, which made his skin red and raw. By the time Caden was dressed and out the front door, the campus was back to being deserted. Everyone tucked away in their rooms waiting for dinner. The sun had dropped enough that the walk to the front gate wasn't so bad. Each step an echo of the preacher's triumphs. There were 4 female and 3 male initiates lined up by the tunnel. Caden took his place at the back of the line and blocked out the nervous whispers. The source felt more powerful, the connection stronger with each step. The kid in front of Caden told him to watch out. Caden backed off him and said sorry, ran through his prayers and praised the preacher. He noticed the tall brunette at the front of the line, the white ribbon clutched in her hand. The way she leaned forward, she had to be connected. She was staring at the patch of grass at the other end of the tunnel. She was in there somewhere, just a matter of searching. Inside the virtual world, Caden called out the number on the back of her dress until they connected, told her to hold on as he led her down to the blade, to the dirt, life itself. When it was just the two of them, she asked if Caden was ready for the tunnel. He said he hoped so and wished her luck. Everyone stood at attention, ruined the weak connection. A black Jeep with 2 disciples parked at the end of the tunnel. The disciple from earlier strode down the tunnel, the blue light dancing off his silver suit. Halfway down, he banged on the door. By the time he got to the initiates, the sound of the whirling blades filled the air. The disciple loved his job, the gleam in his eyes undeniable. "Okay, boys and girls," he smiled and said, "this is it." Caden took a deep breath and blew it out, asked himself what the hell he was doing. "Ladies first," the disciples said. "1 line across." They did as instructed and stood at the edge of the tunnel, holding hands. "Come forth and answer these questions," the disciple said. "Does the preacher speak the word of the Lord? He's the voice of God that can't be questioned." The girls entered the tunnel, their professed love and devotion echoing off the wall. 3 steps in, the rail-thin blonde on the right gave one twitch, then fell to the floor. The disciple walked backward without a pause. "Is the preacher the chosen one, the ruler above all else?" A resounding yes filled the tunnel, all 3 girls continuing forward. The disciple approached the far side. "Will you forever follow the way, offer your body, your blood, your soul?" The short girl on the right convulsed for a second, dropped with a thud. The infirmary door opened and doctors dragged her and the blonde inside, the door closing behind them, just as the last 2 girls reached the end of the tunnel. The disciple in the Jeep waved the brunette to get in the back. A live-in for a disciple, the best job she could hope for. The disciple waved the boys forward. It was time to speak the truth. Caden walked inside, blue lights above. He would not disobey. The preacher was his master.
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.